Hello and welcome back to the DayLuna Human Design Podcast. Today is a solo episode, a solo duo episode with just Shayna and I, where we wanted to dive into the topic of manifestors versus projectors and their different leadership styles and why that's a really important conversation for our collective growth and for the new paradigm that we're moving into. And honestly, I feel like we've talked about this before on the podcast, but not in a while. The fact that Shayna and I love manifestors, I feel like we're so drawn to manifestors, and we also draw manifestors to us. Like at most of our retreats, we have a disproportionate amount of manifestors there, except for our last retreat where we were talking about relationships, and then that had an overwhelming amount of projectors, which is hilarious. But also just like in life, as two projectors ourselves, I feel like the fact that we understand manifestor energy without conditioning, without blocks, without projections has been something that's been really beautiful and magnetic for us, where we have all of these incredible manifestor women in our lives, and our projector manifestor duo energy is so beautiful. But we wanted to dive into that because we feel like these two types in particular, they have a very important significance as far as like the overall history or trajectory of our collective story. And then we want to explore, what does that mean for us in real life in this time right now? Like if you're a projector or if you're a manifestor, how does our collective history and your type's role in that play a conditioning force into how you might experience life?
Yeah, I love the different dynamics, and I love seeing how they play out in real time. And it kind of just gives you like a little bit of hope for the future, I feel like, looking at where we've been and where we're going from a human design lens. And when we're specifically talking about leadership and what's changing within leadership. And this is definitely not a topic of saying, projectors are better than manifestors or manifestors are better than projectors, like at all. We're not in competition with one another in general as humans. We're really here to evolve and help those around us evolve and symbiotically evolve from the other people around us, right? Like we're here to expand consciousness. And so looking at where we've been and where we're headed just kind of gives us a little bit more support. So we're going to be doing a lot of different classes and mini courses and podcasts and just teaching a lot about the new paradigm as we're going into 2027 and throughout this year of 2026, right? We're going to be teaching a lot about it just so that way you have all of the resources and tools that you need navigating all of this change. But of course, nobody knows the future for certain, right? As 2027 comes, I'm sure we're still going to be talking about all the changes that happen and how we can navigate it with our most alignment and love and connection to those around us. So just starting off from the top, what's old paradigm leadership? What's new paradigm leadership? How are things changing?
Yeah, and obviously we talk a lot about old paradigm being the cross of planning and new paradigm being the sleeping phoenix energy. But here we really want to talk about the power dynamic of the old paradigm. Oftentimes manifestors were finding themselves in this leadership position where this manifestor has this powerful, authoritative presence, authoritarian presence. And in the past, in history, in any civilization, if someone had a manifestor energy type, they automatically kind of rose up in the ranks and were seen as someone who was powerful, whose aura could make this presence, and whose voice had this manifestation power. When they speak, things move. When they speak, people listen. And when they speak, people unconsciously sort of fear their authority or their power. So in the past, you'll read about how a lot of kings or leaders in some way, political figures, etc., were manifestors. And as we move into the new paradigm, the type of leadership that is really meant to rise to the top is projectors. So we want to talk about what that means and a little bit about sort of like the history of our evolution. And something that's so beautiful about human design is it's really helping you understand the spiritual evolution that humanity has gone under and is continuing to move through. And so the first thing that we have to talk about in order to talk about the changeover from manifestors to projectors, and when projectors started being here, incarnating on this planet, is the transition from seven-centered to nine-centered beings. So if this is new to you and you're like, what are you guys talking about? You know that when you pull up your human design chart, it has the 9 shapes or the 9 energy centers in your body graph. And all of us here that are alive have these 9 energy centers that help us process life and take in other people or put out our energy to impact the world around us. And it's how our energy body is structured, is in these 9 main energy centers. Now, that didn't always used to be the case, according to the information that Ra Aruhu has channeled from the Voice of Human Design. Originally, before that, we've gone on this progression over time, actually from having 5 main energy centers into having 7 main energy centers. And only in 1781 did we start to have new people coming into the world that are being born, that are incarnating with this 9-centered energy body. So the reason that this shift happened from 7-centered being to 9-centered being, there's kind of like a cosmic element to it. There's also the transit element to it, with Pluto being in gate 41, which is the initiating codon energy. And also the scientist William Herschel actually discovered that Uranus, the planet, existed in 1781. And Ra has stated that discovering Uranus, before that, we didn't know Uranus was there. Saturn was the furthest planet that we had an awareness of as a civilization. But when he discovered Uranus, it was such a quantum leap for our awareness and for our consciousness that it really, and that being paired with Pluto being in gate 41, there's this energy for transformation that is available and a mutation. And we had this quantum leap in our energetic evolution in that moment, where it's shifted to being 7-centered beings into 9-centered beings. And of course, when we were operating from 7 centers, we were really using our mind or our mental focus to navigate life. Like, that was the main awareness center, our ajna center, that we were experiencing life through. And then when we moved into 9-centered beings, we had this solar plexus awareness energy that we were learning how to use, right? So this is why so much of our conditioning to this day is about learning how to not live from a strategic mental place, but to instead follow our body's inner authority. It's leftover residual all the way from before 1781, when we were 7-centered beings. And in that change that happened, this is also the time that projectors started to incarnate for the first time on planet Earth. Before that, there were no projector types on planet Earth. They literally started incarnating after this quantum leap, this mutative shift, this big moment where our energy body had this upgrade, complete new system wiring that we're starting to learn how to use. That was the moment that projectors started to incarnate on planet Earth.
Yeah, and it's so fascinating to me. And I think for everyone listening, I love hearing the changes that have happened historically and why we are navigating the things. They give so much insight why we're navigating the things that we are right now. And knowing that before 1781, we were really like operating from this place of mind and strategy. And even the way that we connected with other people was strategic. Like, you're going to marry my daughters that way. We have this relationship or this contract, right? Like, marriages were contractual, family units were contractual. Like, you do this role, I do this role, our children do this role, or they're cast out. And that energy was very, very strategic. And then with the shift of becoming 9-centered beings, we're slowly over hundreds of years developing this emotional awareness, this emotional intelligence, and the spiritual intelligence, and discovering, all of us right now, for the first time in human history, how to bond with other people from a place not from your mind, and how to navigate life from a place that's not from your mind. And the more that we talk and share and teach and connect and open ourselves up and dissect and give words to the things that we're feeling, the more we're expanding our consciousness there, our awareness there. And we're having this spiritual evolution, and you can see it all around you. Like there's a spiritual revolution happening right now where people are really starting to realize that everything that they need is already within themselves. And there's so much to discover within their own consciousness, within their own awareness, within their own bodies that we never really understood or knew before. So it is a really fascinating time to be alive. And of course, like in a few hundred years, we're going to look back on this time and feel like we were so primitive. But it is really cool to just know like, okay, I am part of this change that is evolving, part of our spiritual evolution, our emotional evolution, our emotional intelligence that just wasn't available to, everyone else before 1781. And it is really cool. Like we'll get into it more when we teach about the new paradigm specifically and have like classes on that. But I find it fascinating that with the discovery of Uranus, our lifespans changed. Like before that, when we just knew about Saturn, we lived till around 30-ish years old, maybe a little bit older, like give or take.
Maybe you'd get 5 to 8 years more before you would die of syphilis or whatever.
And that's with like Saturn's return takes around 30 years. And you were considered an adult at half of that. So around 15, you were considered an adult. You were getting married. You were having children. You were responsible for your household or for things around. And that was completely accepted as normal because a lot of people died so young. And then with this shift and this discovery of Uranus, our lifespan's changing to live 84 and beyond, because that's how long it takes Uranus to come back and return. Then half of that is around 43. And kind of knowing when I first learned that, like you're not actually an adult in human design's lens until you're 43, until your Uranus opposition. That was so relieving because it feels right. Like truly, I think that everybody who's under 43 is like, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. I'm still a child. Like why is the world telling me that I'm an adult at 18? Like I'm absolutely not. And then you think back to a few hundred years ago and you're like, how were they acting like adults and like thinking that was totally normal at 15 years old? And it was literally a paradigm shift. It was a totally different energy, like that quantum leap that Dana was talking about, and us energetically as beings. So kind of giving yourself a little bit of credit if you're hearing this, like, oh, okay, I'm not an adult till I'm 43. And if you're over 43, like, once again, it's reassuring
grow
to know,
up.
like,
no, I'm just kidding.
No, I feel like it's reassuring to be like, oh, like looking back on your life and the things that were happening around that age or before that age and then after that age. And kind of just knowing like, okay, I've just stepped into adulthood, or maybe you've been an adult for a while, you're well over 43, but kind of just getting to reflect on that in your life, I think is so helpful and gives you a lot of permission to not be so hard on yourself, because it is different energetics now than it was, hundreds of years ago. And I really think that this cross of planning that we've been in, this old paradigm that we've been in, current paradigm, if you will, for 400 years, this cross of planning that's all about family, traditions, structures, groups, governments, like creating those foundations. I think that has, even though we've shifted from 1781, I think that it's held us to trying to be like seven-centered beings because of tradition being such a strong theme, because of
and structures and rules.
Yeah. Fitting in to get in, to be accepted, like all of that mental conditioning was so strong after that change. But then the paradigm being so strong to really kind of try to keep you stuck in the old structures. And we've seen how that hasn't served us as we've been navigating now as 9-centered beings, trying to navigate this conditioning that tells you to still be a 7-centered being and to grow the fuck up and to not be a little bitch or a little baby, or like, all of the dynamics that have helped create this patriarchy that we all live in, or this capitalistic society that we all live in. it's just really fascinating. So that's a topic for another day when we're getting into patriarchy. But also this new paradigm, I feel like we're going to be talking about it every single episode because it's just so relevant right now. And we're here. We're here.
Right. And we're seeing it all around us. I mean, it is truly like this peak climactic moment as far as energy shifts happening clearly. And that's the thing that I wanted to say about this change from 1781 until now and until 2027. We're in this like transitous period. So while projectors started incarnating in 1781 and we all shifted into this nine-centered being energy form in 1781, this entire time from then to now, we've just been in the transit, trying to figure it out in this like awkward mutative growth spurt. And then in 2027, it's where that transition starts to actually land. That's the time where projectors actually start to get to lead. And the world has actually finally accepted that projectors exist and that we are nine-centered beings. Like this whole time from then to now has sort of been figuring it out, struggling against it, battling the old conditioning. And like Shayna was saying, the cross of planning and its rules and structures trying to avoid this change because it doesn't fit into societal, norms and all of that. So, with this topic of being Uranian beings and operating on a Uranian cycle and having longer life expectancy, I think it's really interesting. Like the fact that we're alive right now, it tells us a lot of things. There's a lot of people who are having kids later because they're not an adult until they're 40 and they feel that. There's a lot of people who for the first time are going to therapy and wanting to understand their emotions, which is crazy, but this is literally like the first generation in most people's family lineage where someone has said, I want to understand my emotions and heal trauma and heal stored emotional, energetic trauma from my lineage past. Like it is that's insane. Like for all of us that are millennials, I feel like it's just so normal now, but to really think about how it took this long for people to finally be like, oh, emotions are really important. And they are either our block from connecting to people and connecting to spirit, or they are our passageway. And that's the whole thing about being a nine-centered being and operating from solar plexus or spiritual emotional awareness is like your emotions are the portal for your spiritual evolution. Your emotions are the portal for connecting to other people with shared consciousness, with oneness. And as long as we are suppressing our emotions, we are going to be disconnected from other people. We're going to be disconnected from spirit. And as long as we are living from our mind's strategy and trying to decide what the experts think and what is correct on paper and what externally makes sense with our mind, we're really sort of doing humanity a disservice because we're stalling this evolution that really needs to happen. And right now we're like at the crucible where all of the things that need to crumble are crumbling in order for this change to really take place. So definitely, I feel like whether you're a projector or manifestor, because next we're going to kind of get into more of those dynamics. But for everyone listening, this is an important conversation because it's really about the understanding the shifts that have been taking place collectively and why you were born in this time and what your role is in all of that.
Yeah, leadership is evolving, power is evolving, and the way that we initiate and guide humanity is shifting in general. So this, like I said in the beginning, it's not about being better or worse. It's about frequency changing, and understanding that whether you're a projector or manifestor or not is important as we move through this change. So for the manifestors, the old paradigm leader, the kings and queens, if you will, the old expression of that manifestor leadership energy was like, I lead, you follow. It was this very top-down authority. You do what I say because I said it and because I am your authority. And we still see the patriarchy clinging on to that with their like freaking white knuckling that shit. And
right. It's like
it
that
really is a
form of
control-based power. Yeah,
Right. That form of power has been recognized as the highest form of power, and people are trying to emulate that form of power, whether they're a manifestor or not. And honestly, when we talk about manifestors leading in this king and queen energy, this is actually pre 1781 when we were seven centered beings. Ever since 1781, we've experienced this big shift in the true role of manifestors, which we'll get into later. But it's just knowing that that's where that energy of control or pushing your way through hyper independence comes from. Because one of the things that the old paradigm loved about manifestors is that they were able to be completely independent, and they were able to just declare something or get the inspiration for something and make it happen and put it into reality. And they didn't have to respond to their environment or take in their environment like a generator or a man gen. They didn't have to, wait for other people or be receptive to other people's energies like a reflector might have to do. And so that form of like independence and isolation, this one person can act in and of themselves, was something that the old paradigm really valued. And that has been conditioned and pushed into us that we should be hyper independent, that we should never wait for anyone else, that we should compete and push and, put ourselves first and not attuned to other people or read the room. That's why so many of us have had to learn how to read the room, how to listen to other people, and how power actually does that, right? Because I feel like this old manifestor programming of manifestors being this independent action taker, this independent disruptor, innovator has been so strong in the conditioning force still.
Yeah. And civilization building required this forceful initiation. Like that was needed to make the old paradigm, the structures and civilization, all of those things happen. It needed that like forceful initiation, that like disruptor energy, or that kind of like protective, guarded, I'm doing this, almost like a fear-based control energy. And this led to a lot of burnout in us as we internalize this energy in this new paradigm where we don't necessarily have a king or a queen, although we don't not. That we've really internalized this as we're trying to take charge of our own lives, as we've built, infrastructures that have really conditioned us to value independence and freedom. And while part of that is good, there is this like internalized old paradigm energy that creates this internal burnout or creates this disconnection from the people around us, like Dana was saying, not being able to read a room, like this fear-based hierarchy, just putting your head down and doing what you're told, following other people, and like kind of just wanting to like be a good student or be a good,
right,
family member. And that leads to feeling unseen and feeling overpowered by the world around you. Now, let's talk about what is good energy leadership from manifestors.
Yeah, well, this of all the stuff that we're talking about, as I mentioned, it's sort of like leftover conditioning from the power dynamics pre 1781. And when 1781 happened and we experienced this 9-centered being shift, manifestors actually then got put into a new role as projectors started incarnating. It's just been really messy because we've been trying to figure it out. So a lot of that old conditioning has come through. But now manifestors have this signature theme of peace. They are here to just be free agents in creating the things that channel through them. We really see manifestors, because manifestors are here to get their inspiration only from internal sources, from internal creative urges. Manifestors are almost like this bridge in the new paradigm to higher realms, to higher planes of creativity. And they get to be this channel that channels something sort of 5D down into the 3D. And with their voice, they're able to immediately put that concept into manifestation, into physicality. And so manifestors now are really here to be disconnected from that push and pull, from the power games, from controlling other people. And instead, they are here to focus on their own internal journey with their creative source internally. That is their sacred compass. That is what they're here to do. And it doesn't make them selfish. It doesn't make them someone who's disconnected from other people or doesn't deserve love. It makes them sort of a servant, if you will, or like in service to higher realms of creativity that are wanting to come through them. And so there's no egoic power in that. Instead, they feel like an instrument. You know, it's like spirit is speaking through them, and they have this powerful body that can help transform spiritual concepts into reality. So there is this sort of like disconnected energy still and this independence still, but it's not being used to control other people or to manipulate other people or to build civilizations. It's really being here to usher in ideas from the divine, from the spirit realm that are wanting to come to the human realm.
Yeah. And as a manifestor, if you're listening, like your energy is still here to initiate. It's still meant to be impactful. It's still meant to cause ripples and a ripple effect around you. But the more that we are evolving, like when we're talking about just humanity as a whole and our consciousness as a whole and energetics as a whole, the more that we're evolving and you're looking inward and you're expanding your own emotional intelligence and you're taking accountability for yourself and you're listening to your authority and doing what's right for you, not from a place of your mind, but from a place of your body and your authenticity and your alignment, that is initiating other people to do the same and to liberate themselves. So the more that you liberate yourself without it having to be maybe an old paradigm view of like, I'm free and the only way I get that is by other people being enslaved to me to give me my freedom. It's instead shifting to I'm free and I don't need anyone else to rely on that or to control me or to do what I say for me to have freedom. And that initiates more pure, authentic freedom and authenticity in general in the world around you. So you're still here to make change. You're still here to be an energetic leader. Everyone is here to be an energetic leader. If you're listening to this and you're a generator and you're like, what the hell? I'm not meant to lead. Like you absolutely are. We're just talking about these broader archetypes and how they're shifting and changing over the hundreds of years and why it's been messy and where we're kind of going as a species moving forward.
Yeah, and I just wanted to say that all of the manifestors that I know that I'm friends with that are born in this time, it's so interesting to watch them move through the world because the external conditioning of people who don't understand their energy, people are always projecting onto them and expecting them to be like bossy and pushy and like very assertive or very masculine. I hear that word a lot from people saying that. And it's simply because they have still this powerful aura that is dominant when they walk into a room. They have a repelling aura where their energy almost makes all of the other energy bounce off of their energy or pushes their energy out. It moves people whether they like it or not. Literally think of like wind coming into the room and people getting pushed back and experiencing the impactfulness of their presence. And so one of the challenges, but also I think something that's really beautiful if you're a manifestor right now, is navigating that feeling of being misunderstood and not needing to prove yourself in that, not needing to like live up to it, but to instead really be asking yourself, what are the things that I want to do for myself that bring me peace? And like letting peace be your greatest mantra, like always searching for that feeling. And when you find your signature theme of peace, really being clear about who are the people I'm around when I feel peaceful? What are the things that I'm doing when I feel peaceful? Even if it's something that I'm not doing or something that I'm canceling, like that is your power. You're never going to be able to control other people's old paradigm conditioning that's like stuck in their energy of them thinking that you're someone to be feared because you are powerful. The manifestors here are here to show us that you can be powerful and sovereign, like not putting that power on anyone else. It's power within yourself. And when manifestors do that, then they automatically liberate other people around them. When a manifestor comes into their own liberated sovereign power, they automatically have this huge impact that ends up inspiring and kind of coloring other people, initiating other people around them to have the same. So if you're listening now and you're a manifestor, you absolutely have a powerful energy that can lead other people. It's just knowing that sovereignty, that freedom, that connection to your emotions and connection to spirit within you, connection to your creativity, that's how you take your power back and get rid of all of this old paradigm conditioning that people might be projecting onto you.
Yes. So let's talk about projectors. And projectors really were introduced into humanity to start guiding and shifting away from that top-down kind of manifestor, forceful leadership, and shift more towards guidance-based leadership, collaboration, more of a democratic style. And that's because projectors have this penetrating aura where they're seeing into the other person, and they're able to offer these tweaks of, okay, this is how you could shift. This is how you can be more authentic. This is how you can come back home to yourself and navigate with more authenticity, more alignment. And so this is really helping us to get away from burnout and hustle culture, shifting more into working smarter and not harder. Yeah, projectors finally being recognized is going to help us lead people into more, I wanted to say guidance-based leadership, like where it's focusing on like, how can we make this better versus how can you just do what I say and how can I get everyone to do what I want?
Right. And manifestors and projectors, obviously one thing they have in common is that they're both non-sacral beings. And so manifestors are technically an energy type. They get these huge spurts of energy to put things into motion. And then they need this rest cycle where they've pass the torch by informing, and then other people carry this thing out for them. And then projectors also have inconsistent energy, but it is quite different than a manifestor's energy, right? Projectors really have this inconsistent energy where they never have this energetic surge to manifest and get things going out into the world. They really can only ride off of the fumes of other people. And so they really have to focus on efficiency. It is there's no option for projectors, but it's really beautiful because that makes them the student who is learning efficiency, who is learning systems, and it makes projectors the perfect guide to guide other people towards systems and efficiency so everyone doesn't have to live under the authoritative rule of a 40-hour work week, which is healthy for no one. No generator should have to answer to some other authority, even if they love their job, about how many hours they should be working every single week, non-negotiable, right? Projectors, because of their non-energy being mechanics, beingness, mechanics, they become the perfect guide to help free other people from that. So it's really beautiful if you ever feel as a projector bitterness around not having consistent energy, raise your hand and join the club. But just knowing that this is helping you make change that is beneficial for everyone, that's going to liberate all of the other types. So it makes you, the more that you can lean into that journey yourself, it makes you a master at this.
Yeah. And I think that one thing that really helps me knowing okay, we're shifting out of a place that's been about survival and we're shifting into a place that's about awareness. And what makes projectors so great with leading in this way is because they're so aware of the systems or how people are operating, how the mechanics are working, because they can't help but peer in and constantly be seeing all of the dynamics at play. And so that awareness alone, projectors, because their aura is literally focused on having more awareness of things outside of themselves, it, like Dana said, it just naturally leads to this place of leading by example. And also, you can't like help but do it as a projector. Like, true. That's why you have to wait for the invitation, because you can't help but look into the other person or look into the system or look into the thing and see all of the ways that it could be better, and, or even just see all of the flaws. And that is repelling if it's not invited. And so that's why recognition is so important. For one, projectors to be recognized, but two, for them to recognize themselves and to take their power back, to turn that penetrating aura inward on themselves. And the gift of recognition as a projector, like receiving it, it goes both ways. Like, projectors are incredible at recognizing other people's gifts and recognizing how they're meant to use those gifts, and really seeing people. And that is such a gift in and of itself, to be recognized by someone. And doesn't require money. It doesn't require resources or being in the right family or the right government or the right whatever, like this cross of planning has really taught us it has to be from, right? Like, you have to get to the top to be like the best, to then be recognized. But if you can just sit across from someone and they just really see you and understand you, like, that is invaluable. It's priceless.
And because projectors are guiding us towards this new era of awareness, right? Like, when a projector is recognizing you, they are deeply aware of your journey, of your energy, of who you are, of your struggles, of your gifts. Like, they are seeing you, they are recognizing you, they are aware of your presence in such a deeper way. And that is actually the realm that we're all moving into in the new paradigm, is the development of awareness. And the old paradigm with manifestors, hierarchy, pre-1781, it's all about energy use to build so that we can survive on the physical plane. And the cross of planning was really like carrying that through this whole time. And now we're moving into, how well do we see? How well do we understand? How much awareness do we have, so that you can see that projectors really are the ones that are here to guide us? But what's something so interesting is, as we get less and less physical in the world, we are already seeing that happening with the internet and the technologies that are happening and the shifts that are happening in that realm. As we get less and less physical and singular, and we move more into like these information fields and quantum realms, it's going to be really important for people to be aware of those dynamics that are shifting and to be their own authority in that. And that's what's so beautiful about projectors being here to guide, is that projectors have been, warming up this whole time and like ready for their shot to like hit the home run. And 2027 is that moment where the world is really going to need projectors to guide every individual to be their own authority, to develop that awareness, to decipher what's real and what's not real, because there is no more hierarchy, outer authority, top-down leadership that we can trust. It's going to be that each person needs to be their own authority. And obviously in human design, we already preach that, but we're really starting to see the big external structures in the collective shift to support this. And so like projectors have been sort of like waiting this whole time, and now they're finally on bat. And it's really interesting, with projector leadership, like Shayna was saying, it's all about seeing someone. It's about recognizing someone. It's not about controlling them. It's not about demanding something, which would be more of the old paradigm, manifestor leadership. And with projector leadership, it's about refinement. It's about tweaks and corrections. I'm not telling you what to do. I'm not telling you who to be. I'm looking at who you are and what your inner authority wants. And I'm offering insight to just slightly change your course to make it more smooth, to make it more authentic for you, to make it more efficient. So it's really like success through tweaking and correction, and really like understanding someone and being aware, rather than success through dominating or giving other people orders. And I think that that's one of the most interesting differences between manifestors and projectors. Is manifestors are here to say statements. Like, informing is information that comes from them. I want to create this thing. And projectors are really designed for questions. That is how the projector leads other people. It's not saying, I think that you should do this or you should do this. It's like, well, how do you feel about this? And, when you're doing this, what does your body feel? And as a projector, you're really asking someone questions so that they can become their own authority, so that they can find their own information internally. And that's a very, very different way of being. But people have to be open to that. People have to be ready to be seen that deeply. And a lot of the old paradigm conditioning around manifestors and that type of energy has actually taught all of us to be afraid of being seen, because we're afraid of being controlled, and we're afraid of control. We're afraid of getting misunderstood and hung out to dry in the spotlight. And so for a lot of us, we're healing that wound of being seen, and it's connected to our openness to allow other people to see us, to be able to ask us those questions and guide us so that we can become our own leaders.
And I do want to say that projectors are not perfect, right? This is not saying that all projectors are going to see you so deeply and they give you this priceless gift of recognition and seeing everything so clearly. We're not there yet. We are, a lot of us are, but not all projectors have awareness that they're projectors, right? Or that they are here to guide in this way. Not all manifestors have awareness that they're manifestors and that they're here to initiate, but really tuning in within and creating that inner freedom first. And so it's definitely, I don't want anyone to hear this and feel that these are already perfect dynamics, because we're in that messy middle, like Dana was saying, and things are shifting and getting fine tuned. But it's knowing that the mechanics at play, the way that our energetic auras are meant to connect with one another, and the way the paradigm is shifting, and you can see all of the things all around us right now as they're being unearthed or going viral or being more prominent in our awareness of ourselves and each other, that now is the time for us to cultivate more awareness and seeing that as our strength versus our productivity. Our sensitivity being our strength versus our, putting our head down and just being a good husband or a good wife or a provider. And really seeing that now people really crave to be seen, not commanded. And that's huge. That's a huge change. And not everyone is there yet, right? Some people don't want the responsibility of making decisions for themselves, of being their own authority. And that's a huge thing that we're having to navigate as well, right? There's so many people clinging on to this old paradigm energy, the patriarchy or capitalism, or working a 9-to-5 that they hate, because the secondhand benefit of that is that it's not your fault. It's not your fault that you hate your job. It's not your fault that, the country sucks, or that the whatever is bad, because that was somebody else's choice and you're just doing what you're told, and you need to put food on the table and you need to survive. So that's you're a victim of just having to survive life. And so you have to work a job that you hate. And there's millions and millions of people that are stuck in that paradigm, in that view. And that might be you listening right now, right? That's why we created our Kiss Goodbye Your 9-to-5 program, which this is not a pitch for that because it's not open right now. But it's why we created that at the time that we did, because so many people feel trapped and stuck underneath their boss, aka their job, that is draining them dry emotionally and energetically and personally, but they feel like they have to. And really navigating out of that is first and foremost coming to terms with what are the benefits that you receive personally by not being your own authority and by not listening to your authority. And the number one thing is that you become the victim. It's not your fault. And to be a victim makes you feel like you have some of your power back because it's not your choice. And so you did everything you could. You did everything right. But really, it's a false sense of power, right? It's coming from your ego. It's coming from fear. So there's a lot of things that we could get into there. But the main thing I want to say is that when I'm looking at like society and like us as a collective and all of the power struggles that are still at play out of fear, a lot of it is coming from people not wanting to be their own authority and wanting to hold on to traditions that maybe were their authority, or wanting to go back, like make America great again, like go back in time because that time was better, because those traditions or those structures, it was more simple to just do what you were told and like have a family and focus on that only. And, you know, that energy of control and of how it served us for the illusion that we were creating of freedom. But when we actually now are developing our spiritual awareness and our emotional awareness and going to therapy and getting clear on like, okay, I don't want to pass this down. It's been passed down to me. Nobody in my family even knew of this stuff. They didn't have the languaging or the privilege that I have now to even understand myself. The more that we develop that, the more that we just see people really crave to not be commanded anymore. They don't want to be under somebody else being their authority, but they probably don't know human design to really teach them or give them languaging to the things that they're feeling internally to come back to these things and rely on them. And that's the gift of human design, right? Human design is not trying to be your authority for you and tell you this is how you operate, so do it. And don't question it. Like, just listen to your sacral and that's it, right? Human design is just trying to give you languaging to things that you probably already felt and tell you that you can rely on them, to trust yourself, to listen to yourself, and that that's okay, that you're not being bad or weird or woo-woo or crazy or whatever. Like, that is what you are meant to do, to navigate, to become your own authority, to actually take your power back and not just do something because everyone else around you is doing it or because you were told to do so. So it's going to be painful for a lot of people to really realize like, oh, wait, I created this circumstance in my life out of fear or out of not wanting to have to take responsibility. But that transition, it is messy, just like every transition is. But then once you get your footing and you really start to trust yourself, there's no going back from there. And I think everyone listening can resonate with when they found out about their human design and really started practicing it. Like, there's no going back from that knowledge and experimentation, because it just rings as so true. Like, you can't unknow it. You can't unfeel it. Your body like clicks into like this, like, oh, this resonance that you might not be perfect. You might not do it all the time, but you can then tell, oh, that I'm not coherent anymore. Like, I did come off of this and it's a weird vibration, or I'm experiencing my not self, right? And then you can come back to your center, come back to who you truly are. So it's gonna happen, and people are doing it day by day. It's like, you could look at it both sides. Like, so many people are awakening to themselves more and more every single day and feeling empowered with different systems that help us expand our awareness of who we are. But then also there's so many people who are clinging on to the way things were and trying desperately to control and cling on to power, that live in fear. And there's so many people who are just wanting to put their head down and not take responsibility for it, and to just be good and doing everything they can to provide and survive. And that's their whole experience in this life, maybe, is just surviving and not thriving, and not feeling the fullness of their whole energetic expression as a 9-centered being. So projectors are here to make those tweaks, and manifestors are here to really initiate. And I think one of the things that you wrote down, Dana, that I absolutely loved is that manifestor leadership built the world, but projector leadership refines and heals the world. One starts movements. You're still here to start movements, manifestor. One guides the evolution of those movements that are happening. So I really think that that's a helpful frame to look at, because we need all of the energy types to mutate as a collective energetic consciousness.
Yeah. And I feel like the big takeaway from this episode, whether you're a manifestor or a projector or not, for anyone listening at any energy type, the lessons around this are all things that we're integrating now. So like, anytime you catch yourself being like, I just wish someone would tell me what to do, it's so overwhelming to have to figure this shit out all on my own. That's a little red flag for you that this old paradigm conditioning is kind of luring you into handing over your own power. So be really aware of that. And also, anytime that you catch yourself just feeling like uncomfortable being seen in any way, that is like probably everybody listening to this podcast, including ourselves. There's moments where you're afraid of being seen. That's a wound that we have collectively from this whole conversation that we're talking about and the shifts in leadership. So those are big takeaways. And also just knowing that the more that you can open yourself up to being seen, to taking advice from other people in a way that liberates you, right? In a way that empowers you. I feel like that's such an important takeaway for anyone as we get more and more information. We have so many like news channels, we have fake videos that are AI going out into the world. It's going to be really hard in the future to discern who we should listen to. And the power is actually in your own hands to listen to the people that feel like they're guiding you to be your own leader instead of demanding that you think a certain way. And that is a huge takeaway that all of us can practice from this conversation. And then, of course, if you are a manifestor or a projector, the big takeaways from this podcast episode, if you're a manifestor, to not get so tripped up in the fact that other people think you need to be this controlling, assertive person. Your signature theme is peace. That is not your story anymore. You are here to impact. You are here to initiate other people, but you don't need to subscribe to that old story that your powerful energy is going to always be misunderstood or thought of as controlling, or that you have to be in that reign, right? You make the choice by undescribing to that old story and by attuning to your emotionality and your spirituality and your creativity and letting that be the source of your impactfulness. And that's how you really lead us into the new paradigm with highest expression manifestor energy. And then if you're a projector, knowing that now is the time, 2027 is our time to shine, baby. We are finally going to be recognized more and more. So what does that tell us that you need to take responsibility for, right? As projectors, we all need to know that there is no opportunity to hide from our guidance and our leadership anymore, right? If you're still working a job like a generator and, someday maybe you'll be able to guide, that's really going to crumble as we move into the new paradigm. So if you're listening to this and you're a projector, really getting inspired about your fascination zone. What are the skill sets or the modalities or the systems that just absolutely fascinate your mind? Start mastering them. Pick a niche thing that you just absolutely love and just go for it. Build yourself up as a lighthouse in that realm, because your guidance is really going to be needed and there's going to be more space for you moving forward. So thank you so much for listening to this. We'd love to hear how this podcast episode resonated for you. If you are a manifestor or projector, or you have someone in your life that's a manifestor or projector. And for all of us, as the world is getting closer and closer to the new paradigm, we're excited to continue having conversations that support us in this time from different angles, because there are so many different ways to look at the massive, enormous shifts that are taking place within us and in our collective.
Yes. And the number one thing you can be doing is actually living your design. Like Dana was just offering up for projectors. There's different tools and tactics and tips and daily practices that you can lean into based off of your design. And we have highlighted and walked through all of our favorite ones that we like for each of the different types based off of your design, more specifically when we talk about your profile and your centers. And there's so many different things that you can be doing right now to really do your energetic hygiene, if you will. So we highlight all of that in our book, which is called Your Human Design. I have it right here. And this is sold anywhere you buy books, Amazon, Barnes & Noble, literally anywhere. So if you don't have our book, I highly suggest getting it. It's a great inexpensive entry point into human design. But I don't even want to say entry point, because we see so many people that are even advanced human design buffs or teachers or leaders or, students, for example, who aren't actually living their design every day. They're just gathering more and more knowledge. And so really doing the practices is where the magic happens and what is really needed as we are shifting into this new paradigm. So you can find that linked below. You can also find it online, Your Human Design. And we are just really excited that we're doing this work all together to be these leaders in this new paradigm, regardless of our type, because that is what the world needs. Kind of like the underdog energy. I feel like there's so much happening right now that it's like, okay, what am I doing to usher in a better change or to navigate these challenging times? Like, is it enough for me to just have awareness of myself and take self responsibility? And as you can see from this conversation, that awareness is the most important thing that we can be doing. And it feels small. It feels trivial. It feels like maybe it's not enough, but it is the most important thing. And if it does feel small to you, great, because it's like easy to do it. And it's going to make a big difference as we move forward through 2027.
Yes. Okay. So thank you so much for listening. And we're excited to continue to go on this journey together. We're not alone in this shift in ushering in the change, in midwifing the new paradigm that's being born. We are so grateful to be here doing this work and having these conversations with you. So thank you for tuning in. And I hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
Thank you for tuning in with us today. If you like this video, be sure to like and subscribe to follow along and learn more about human design.